Okay, Meg, it's Monday.
It is Monday. It's Monday in our hearts. We're gearing up for another Monday.
In Lent. Now it's Lent, the season of Lent. Can I say Lent one more time?
Lent. The season of Lent. Lent, the season of Lent, which kicks off with Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday. The beginning of Lent. Which is 40 days of self-reflection.
That's the way I look at Lent.
Yeah.
I know other people look at Lent in other ways, but...
Well, I think it's like... Yeah, self-reflection I think that's how I want to look at it as well.
Right. But it's not just self-reflection, like psychology. It is...
But in self-reflection in relation to...
There you go.
Yeah. In relation to... Would you say one's relationship with Jesus and God? Or...
I usually just say, it's looking at your faith, where you're at. And we're entering this period of the journey to the cross. Mm-hmm. So we're constantly looking in that direction. We're kind of turning our face to Jerusalem at this time. So we're at that point in the story. So we know what's coming.
Right. So we're preparing. For what's coming.
Right. We're preparing. We're, and again, for those who don't observe Lent, sometimes it's very easy to quickly jump to resurrection and Easter and the joy, but you don't go through everything that gets
feelings,
there, the feelings, the hard stuff, how do we get there? And so if all you know is Easter joy, Lent may seem weird, but even Lent could be reflecting then how does if I'm Easter joy, how is Easter living? How is resurrection living in me? What is resurrection mean outside of just a dead body coming back to life type of resurrection? Resurrection has greater theological meaning
than that. Yeah, that's like I was reading Rachel Held Evans, her sister, was talking about Rachel died right before Easter, or right after Easter a couple years ago. In that last Lent before she died, Rachel kind of put it all out there. I think knowing what was coming in her own life. But since her death, her sister Amanda always posts right around now, different Rachel Held Evans quotes. And one of the things that I liked and that I saved because it felt very important, but was, when I wake up on Resurrection Sunday morning, how will I be different? What am I preparing for?
Right.
And I think that was, I read that on Ash Wednesday, and so it was that was the first time that I think I was oh, all right. And it's something to consider and something to look at.
Right.
And
it's preparation.
Right.
And that we do it every year.
Right.
Means we take that seriously because it's easy for things to sort of creep in.
Right.
And for us.
Well, and it's easy just to skip to Easter and to
skip to Easter and not to go through any of that.
Right.
But the thing about resurrection is it really shines a light on certain things. So in a sense, if you want to look at it this way, where we're talking about if you start with resurrection and you're working that way, you're taking the light of resurrection and sort of shining it on yourself and seeing what it reveals about you or your faith or things, ideas maybe you've kind of attached yourself to that maybe don't take you to that part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is your faith leaning towards resurrection, or maybe your faith is leaning towards just crucifixion, and there is nothing past that, or you know, what is holding you in death? You can put it that way.
Well, it's like what's holding you from experiencing the joy of the resurrection,
or that as well. I mean, there's many questions. Lent is very open. There's not like one way that you
like
have
one
to
way to
do
it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's still that discipline, that yearly discipline, that you do something.
Right.
You do something that goes beyond, like we were talking just a second ago, just the surface thing.
Like the giving up of chocolate.
Right, the giving up of chocolate. The New Year's resolution type of celebration of Lent, where I give up something that I say matters to me, but you know, after 40 days, if I give up chocolate, you know, rest assured I'm shoving a chocolate bunny in my mouth on Easter Sunday.
Probably on
so
the
what
way
did that
to the
mean?
sunrise
So
service.
what did that mean to you?
Right.
I'm gorging on
Right.
Easter candy. So nothing changed. So
Right.
you're no different than you were before you started the journey than after you started the journey.
Right.
There should be something.
Well, this year I feel very kicked into gear.
Okay.
For this Lenten season.
I'm excited.
Yeah, well,
I'm excited sitting next to you from your excitement.
But it's sad.
Oh.
Well, not sad, but it's like, so I just came off of that 9-day civil rights travel seminar.
Mm-hmm. Where you might want to explain it a little bit more for folks who don't know what you just did.
I traveled with my school and some classmates and teachers and people through the Deep South.
Mm-hmm.
Walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma. Went to 8 different civil rights museums in 8 different states.
Mm-hmm.
Stood in the place where several notable civil rights activists like MLK and see, now I'm gonna blank on names because it wells so much. Medgar Evers, places where people were murdered,
mm-hmm.
where people were assassinated, like to stand in actual places. And so it was a very heavy trip.
Right, because it wasn't just something you were reading about or saw in a film.
Right.
You were there with some very physical,
places.
Historical touchstones.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's every time we were in a new place and not learning about, but like, I guess relearning about someone, all I could continuously think about was when Cain kills Abel,
mm-hmm.
and when God asks where Abel is, and Cain's like, am I my brother's keeper? Like, there's all that, and then there's when God says, well, that Abel's blood is crying out from the ground. Mm-hmm. That's how it, like, I understand that more so now than I think I ever have before. And so our trip ended on Ash Wednesday.
Mm.
And so that was lots of heavy feeling that I'm going to carry with me now for the next 40 days of lamenting and like feeling the heavy feelings and preparing for what's next and preparing for the resurrection.
Mm.
So that's, woo. But I'm excited because it's like, I feel like I am experiencing Lent for the first time,
mm-hmm.
like for real now. Like I've gone through the motions for 20 years
right
now. And so it's like I've given up the soda and I've given up the chocolate and the fast food and social media and things like that.
And your faith didn't
Didn't
feel
change.
different?
It doesn't. No, it didn't.
I'm stunned.
Yeah, right?
I am stunned by that
Me too.
revelation. I'm stunned. How can that be?
But it's like, this is the first time that it's like, that it feels real.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, like, I've heard a few people talk about it recently, about how, like, they feel that way too this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, this year has that opportunity that, you know, a lot of us now are like the giving up stuff. Let that go.
Right.
Take on something.
Mm-hmm.
Take on something that moves you deeper.
Mm-hmm.
That because you take on something, you have to let something drop. You know, you've got to let other things drop.
Right.
You know, I'm going to do this, which is going to take time, which normally I would have spent doing this. Which,
right.
You know, but this is supposed to lead me closer, right, or to help me see something maybe I hadn't said or felt before.
Right. Well, it's like the stirrings, like the feelings.
Right.
It's supposed to bring that into the front and center, like into existence.
Right. And I mean, you got to take this trip. For the rest of us, we kind of feel like we're emerging from COVID a little bit.
Right.
And what happens when you know, it's different now.
Right.
So either we go back and don't let this experience change us, or...
Which I don't think we're capable of doing. I hope, anyways. I hope that it's not. We just...
Right.
We're so close. It's like the seed that's so close to like coming out of the ground, but I hope it's not just like, never mind.
And I hope so. But I never underestimate our ability to miss the
to be gross creatures of habit.
To miss the opportunity
yeah.
of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds very cynical, but I'm afraid, well, that's just the way
that's
the way I feel.
That's
experiences
fine.
taught me. Okay. But we've got that. We've got, you know, the situation in Ukraine, which has really shifted a lot of, again, how we see things and think about things. Challenged a lot of places where I think maybe we became complacent about stuff, or thought we could play with the fire without getting burned.
Right.
So, you know, there's a lot right now that if you were mindful, Lent could be a very important period of introspection or looking at or asking. Well, we're back to asking the hard questions, but asking hard questions or just kind of maybe letting go of some things, but those things might just be thoughts and attitudes and anger or you know, whatever the case may be for misconceptions,
all things.
Yeah, it could be any of that stuff. And Lent is a great opportunity.
Yes.
If you'll take it, anything in church is a great opportunity if you make it one.
Right. Well, if you're willing to.
If you're willing, I mean, it's a constant offering of things. It's not that we, the leaders of church, do it on your behalf.
Right.
We don't do it for you or somehow through our whatever.
Yeah. We don't do the priestly sacrifice thing anymore.
We don't
that
make
atones
Lent happen for
people.
you.
Yeah.
We try to create a space and an opening so that something may happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like we talked a lot. I think I talk a lot about like holding space, like creating space and holding space. And that's not, I'm not creating the experience for you, but I'm creating the space to give you the opportunity to have the experience.
To have an experience.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what so much of going through the church year. I mean, we started in Advent that has purpose to it, but it's not something we do.
Right.
That we did.
No.
It's opening that space up.
Yeah. Well, I feel open and ready to receive whatever this season has to offer this go around.
Which to me, again, is why I feel Ash Wednesday is a good beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ash Wednesday puts you at the beginning.
At the beginning.
You are dust.
Right.
And to dust you will return.
Mm-hmm. But then it's like...
That's a breakdown to the most elemental
right.
of who you are and what you are. But I know this year when people came, because I was kind of feeling this way this year, I couldn't stop there.
Oh.
So I told folks who actually came and got ashes this year, it was like, you are dust and to dust you will return. But remember, it was this dust that God breathed life into.
Mm-hmm.
It was this dust that God felt was so important to send his son to redeem. It is this dust that the Spirit is given and gives gifts and
right.
the gift of faith. It is this dust, and through this dust that grace, love, and mercy
right.
has the opportunity to change the world.
Yeah. Amen.
So it's not, I felt hopeful
yeah.
with the dust.
Well, I feel hopeful.
Then starting with a...
Right. But I think it was a couple years ago, I read something that was like, I think it was the Ash Wednesday at the start of COVID. Mm-hmm. I think it was. I read something that was just like, if God can do this with dust,
yeah,
think about what that means. And it was just like, oh man,
mm-hmm.
yes, please. I want to be a part of that. And so that was just a fun, because COVID was like the dust to dust, the somber.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's never the dust by itself. It's always the dust and.
Right.
It's the dust and the breath of God. Yeah. It's the dust and.
The Ruach Elohim.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Throw some Hebrew out there.
Still one of my favorites. Well, yeah, because it's like we get to be something because of the breath of God. Mm. Which is a whole thing in and of itself that's just like, ooh!
Right. It opens up all possibilities.
Right. Well, the space has been created.
The space has been created.
With that. Yeah. I will say, on this trip, I think I've become a very vocal Presbyterian in the sense where right now I'm very much just like, ooh, amen. You say that one more time.
All right.
So, yeah. All right. You get ready for Sunday.
Stir that frozen chosen.
I have to now, I think. Just being surrounded by people on this trip who it's so normal. And it's just like, that's part of it. That I think it's going to be hard to go back to just the quiet. Yeah. Right. So a lot of stirrings, a lot of...
We'll have fun on Sunday then.
A lot of... Yes! Okay, so for Ash Wednesday, I found a reading.
Okay.
That I want to share. It's from a book called Circle of Grace. It's a book of blessings for the seasons, and it goes through the church liturgical year. But it's by Jan Richardson. Book's a couple years old, but I was reading on Ash Wednesday. There's a couple in here, but I read this one, and I was like, oh, yes, this is the one.
Share it with us,
All right. To receive this blessing, all you have to do is let your heart break. Let it crack open. Let it fall apart so you can see its secret chambers, the hidden spaces where you have hesitated to go. Your entire life is here, inscribed whole upon your heart's walls. Every path taken or left behind, every face you turned toward or turned away, every word spoken in love or in rage, Every line of your life you would prefer to leave in shadow. Every story that shimmers with treasures known and those you have yet to find. It could take you days to wander these rooms, 40 at least. And so let this be a season for wandering, for trusting the breaking, for tracing the rupture that will return you to the one who waits, who watches, who works within the rending to make your heart whole.
And with that, we'll say amen.
Amen.
And thank you for joining us on Mondays with Meg.
And Thom.
And we'll see you next time.